Hope you have found this video useful. The best way to support the channel and ensure you don't miss our next upload is to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Part 40.7, Surah Ghafir, the Forgiver, the Day of Calling, and the Seal of Arrogance, as Salamu, Alakamwa, Rahmatullahi, wa Barakatuh. We continue our journey through the intense, high-stakes discourse of the believing man in the court of Pharaoh. Welcome back to the Sufi Essence Master Class with Hammad. Inside as we witness the transition from historical archaeological warnings to the terrifying metaphysical reality of the hereafter. In our previous session, the secret believer emerged from the shadows of the palace to challenge the murderous intent of Pharaoh. He reminded the Egyptian elite that their movement in the land was temporary and that the day of the companies had swallowed civilizations far stronger than theirs. Today, in verses 31 through 35, he intensifies his warning. He moves from the destruction of the past to the chaos of the future, the day of calling. We will also see how the ego's dispute leads to the ultimate spiritual tragedy, the sealing of the heart by Allah. This is a deep excavation into the psychology of skepticism and the cosmic laws of justice that govern the rise and fall of souls. Verse 31. The law of divine justice and the end of oppression, Kanzalaman. Surah Ghafir, the Forgiver. Chapter 40, verse 31. Like the fate of the people of Noah alayhi salam and Ad and Thamud and those after them. And Allah wants no injustice for his servants. The believing man continues his list of historical ruins, creating a bridge between the previous verse and the current reality of the Egyptian court. He mentions Noah alayhi salam, Ad, and Thamud, the companies that were once dominant, possessing superior strength, verse 21, but are now merely archaeological stories. He clarifies a vital point of divine law. Wa ma Allahu, Yuridu, Dolman, Lil, Ibad, and Allah wants no injustice for his servants. In our Sufi excavation, we realize that the destruction of these nations was not a display of divine cruelty or an arbitrary act of power, but a manifestation of divine balance. Allah provides clear proofs, verse 22, and signs, verse 13. When a people systematically reject these and choose corruption in the land, verse 26. Through the oppression of others, they invite the consequences upon themselves. The injustice would be to allow the oppressor to continue forever without accountability. Allah is the forgiver, verse 3, but he is also the maintainer of justice. The ruins are proof that Allah protects the balance of the world by removing those who seek to destabilize it through pride. He is the Al-Adel, the just, and his justice is a mercy for the oppressed. Verse 32. The day of calling and the desperation of the soul, Kanzalaman, Quran Surah Ghafir, the Forgiver. Chapter 40, verse 32. And O my people, indeed I fear for you the day of calling. The warning shifts from the horizontal history to the vertical judgment. The believing man introduces a unique and chilling name for the day of resurrection, Yawm al-Tanad, the day of calling. This is the day when people will call out to one another in utter desperation, the inhabitants of the fire, calling to the inhabitants of the garden for water, followers calling to their arrogant leaders for help, and the soul calling out for a way back to the world. It is a day of chaotic vocalization, where the secret of the heart is finally made loud in public. The believing man's fear for his people is the highest form of compassion. He sees the coming noise of that day while they are still comfortably silent in their palace, distracted by their effects in the land. He knows that the calling of that day cannot be silenced by the palace guards. Verse 33. The day of turning away and the absence of protection, Kanzalaman, Surah Ghafir, the Forgiver. Chapter 40, verse 33. The day you will turn your backs fleeing, there will be for you from Allah no protector. And whoever Allah leaves astray for him, there is no guide. He describes the physical reaction of the soul on that day. Yamatu Aluna Mudbyron, the day you will turn back fleeing. It is a futile flight from the inevitable. Just as verse 21 mentioned that the past nations had no Waqin protector during their earthly destruction. The believing man confirms that on this ultimate day, no earthly rank, Pharaonic gold, or Hammadic architecture can shield a soul from the divine decree. The verse ends with a chilling spiritual reality. وَمَنْ يَدْلِلُهُ فَمَا لَهُ مِنْ هَادٍ. And whoever Allah leaves astray for him, there is no guide, is the organic result of the persistent dispute, verse 4. If a person repeatedly and consciously shuts their eyes to the clear proofs provided by the messengers, a point comes where the ability to see the truth is taken away as a consequence. This is not arbitrary. It is the natural outcome of the treachery of the eyes. Verse 19. When you refuse to see the light, you are eventually left in the dark by your own choice. Verse 34. The cycle of doubt and the legacy of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam Kanzelaman. Surah Ghafir the Forgiver, chapter 40, verse 34. And Yusuf alayhi salam had already come to you before, with clear proofs. But you remained in doubt of that which he brought to you, until when he died you said, never will Allah send a messenger after him. Thus does Allah leave astray him who is a transgressor and skeptic. The believing man brings up a specific, localized Egyptian history, the mission of Yusuf alayhi salam. He reminds them that their ancestors did the exact same thing to Yusuf alayhi salam that they are currently doing to Musa alayhi salam. They lived in shake doubt, using it as a shield against commitment. Their doubt was a convenience. When Yusuf alayhi salam passed away, they used his past greatness as an excuse to reject future messengers, claiming Lan yabatha Allahu min badi, Rasulan Allah will never send another messenger. This is a masterstroke of psychological analysis. The ego uses the past truth to deny the present truth. They claim to believe in Yusuf alayhi salam only after he was gone, so they wouldn't have to obey a living messenger who challenged their current behavior. Allah defines such people as Muzrifin, Murtab, transgressors and skeptics. Their wastefulness is the tragic waste of their own spiritual potential. Verse 35. The sealing of the arrogant heart, Kanzelaman. Surah Ghafir, the Forgiver. Chapter 40, verse 35. Those who dispute concerning the signs of Allah without an authority having come to them, great is hatred of them in the sight of Allah and in the sight of those who have believed. Thus does Allah seal over every heart of one who is arrogant and a tyrant. This is the climax of the warning. Allah describes those who dispute concerning the signs Yugidaluna Fiye Tili without any sultan authority evidence. Their arrogance is not based on facts, but on pure, unchecked ego. This behavior earns the macked great hatred, loathing of Allah and the believers. The verse concludes with the ultimate spiritual sentence, Kodalika Yatba, Lakula Kalbi, Mutakabirin, Jabbar. Thus does Allah seal over every heart of one who is arrogant and a tyrant. When the heart is sealed, the light, verse 13, can no longer enter, and the anaba turning can no longer happen. The arrogant Mutakabir and the tyrant Jabbar become fossilized in their own delusion. They are now spiritual ruins even before they become physical ones. This seal is the final barrier between the soul and the forgiver. Extending the philosophical excavation, the anatomy of the sealed heart, and the psychology of the skeptic to reach the full master-level depth for this masterclass, we must analyze the psychology of doubt and the metaphysics of the day of calling presented in these verses. We are examining how a civilization and an individual soul moves from doubt to dispute, and finally, to a sealed heart. This is not just Egyptian history. It is the biography of the human ego. In verse 31, the believing man reinforces the unity of history. By grouping Nay alayhi salam, Ad and Thamad, he shows that the laws of Allah are immutable and impartial. Injustice is often used by the ego as a weapon to rebel against divine authority. People ask, why did Allah destroy them? The Quran answers, because of their own actions. The Sufi secret is that Allah's justice is the ultimate mercy for the universe, as it prevents the facade corruption of the tyrant from becoming eternal. If there were no ceasing, verse 21, the world would be a permanent hell for the weak and the believers. The destruction of the companies is the protection of the servants. We must understand that Allah wants no injustice for his servants, which means he will not let the superior in strength trample the truth forever. His justice is the light that ensures the exalted ranks, verse 15, are populated by the sincere. Verse 32 introduces Yawm al-Tanad, the day of calling. In our modern world, we are surrounded by noise, social media, political slogans, and the constant internal chatter of the ego. But the day of calling is the ultimate, inescapable noise. It is the moment when the concealed faith, verse 28, of the believer and the concealed hatred of the tyrant are called out into the open. The calling is also a call of profound regret. People will call out to their gods, their wealth, and their leaders, but there will be no response. The believing man is calling his people now, in the safety of the palace, so they don't have to call out in despair then, in the heat of the fire. This is the role of the Spirit cast upon the servant, verse 15, to be a voice of warning before the calling of the judgment begins. It is the call of a heart that sees the approaching, verse 18, while others see only the horizon. Verse 33 warns about the futile act of fleeing. On that day, the eagle will try to run from its own record, from the angels, and from the presence of the Almighty. But where can you run from the owner of the throne? The lack of a Waqin protector is the final, crushing realization for those who were superior in strength. Their pyramids were built to be eternal protectors, but on the day of calling, they are nothing but dust. The guidehead is only for those who did not dispute the signs while they were in the land. Once Allah leaves a person astray as a result of their persistent, arrogant rejection of the truth, their internal spiritual compass is permanently shattered. They become lost in the land, verse 25. Fleeing on that day is like a shadow trying to run from the light. It is ontologically impossible. Verse 34 is a profound study in the manipulation of history. The Egyptian elite's treatment of Yusuf alayhi salam is a mirror for every generation. We often praise the saints and prophets of the past to avoid the uncomfortable truth of the message today. The courtiers turned Yusuf alayhi salam into a historical relic, safe prophets, so they wouldn't have to deal with the clear proofs of Musa alayhi salam. This is the state of the murtab skeptic, someone who uses doubt not as a tool for seeking truth, but as a shield against obeying it. They say Allah will never send another, not because they honor the past messenger, but because they want to be their own gods in the present. They want the authority of Yusuf alayhi salam to be dead, so they can continue their transgression Israf without a living conscience to remind them of the day of account. Doubt in this context is a spiritual illness that prevents the soul from eating the provision from the sky. Verse 35 explains the macked great hatred of Allah. This is not a human emotion of anger, but a divine rejection of that which is fundamentally and violently opposed to the truth. The disputers act without sultan authority evidence. Their arguments are based on the treachery of the eyes. Verse 19, looking at the surface of things while ignoring the signs, because they persist in being a mutakabir. Arrogant and a jabbar tyrant, Allah seals their hearts. A sealed heart is the ultimate word of punishment, verse 6. It is a heart that can no longer feel the provision from the sky, verse 13, or recognize the clear proofs. It is the end of Anaba turning. Once the seal is set, the movement in the land is merely a countdown to the day of calling. The sealing is the finality of a soul that has rejected its own origin. Reflect on your own heart in this masterclass. Is it soft and receptive to the signs, or is it developing the seal of arrogance? The secret believer is trying to save his people from this spiritual fossilization. He is showing them that their Mulk sovereignty is a test of how they treat the authority of Allah. If they continue to dispute, they will find themselves on the day of calling with no protector and no guide. The sealing is the divine response to a heart that has repeatedly said no to the light. It is the closing of the door that the soul itself refused to walk through. As we move forward, we will see Pharaoh's desperate, almost comical reaction to this intense spiritual lecture. He will try to build a tower to reach the God of Musa alayhi salam. Proving that his heart is already nearing that final seal, he thinks he can bypass the day of calling through engineering. The day of calling is approaching for all of us. Let your call today be my Lord as Allah, so that your call on that day may be one of joy and meeting with the owner of the highest ranks. The companies of the past are gone, but their stories remain as clear proofs for those who have hearts to understand. Do not be a transgressor and skeptic like the ancestors, O Pharaoh who praised Yusuf alayhi salam while ignoring his message. Recognize the truth that challenges your comfort today and follow it. Before the day you will turn your backs fleeing, the believing man's discourse is a masterpiece of sincerity. Verse 14. He risks his life in the palace to warn those who are blind. He is the guide sent to those who are on the verge of being left astray. Listen to his voice, for it is the voice of the Hamim, echoing through the halls of power. The sovereignty of Allah is the only reality. Everything else, Pharaoh's palace, Haman's tower, Curran's, gold is just a company waiting for its day of calling. Furthermore, we must understand the seal of the Jabbar. A Jabbar is one who compels others and refuses to be compelled by the truth. When the heart becomes Jabbar, it loses the ability to perceive the signs. Verse 13. Becomes a closed system, a tower of self-reference. The believing man is trying to break that seal through the fear of the future. He He is showing them that the movement in the land, verse 4, is a circle that leads back to the Wahid al-Qahar. The tragedy of the sealed heart is that it thinks it is free, while it is actually imprisoned in its own pride. The transition from verse 34 to 35 is crucial. The skeptic Murtab becomes the disputer Ujadilin, and the disputer becomes the arrogant tyrant Mutakabir Jabbar. It is a downward spiral of the soul. The sultan authority that they lack is the very thing Musa alayhi salam brought, verse 23. By rejecting the authority of the prophet, they have authorized their own destruction. Let us use this Sufi excavation to ensure our hearts remain open, unsealed, and always in a state of inaba. The day of calling is coming. Let us prepare our voices for the call of the believers. To Allah belongs the sovereignty this day. The macked hatred mentioned in verse 35 is also a warning to those who believe. We must align our own likes and dislikes with the divine. If Allah loathes the dispute without authority, we too must guard against the intellectual arrogance that refuses to submit to the clear proofs. The secret believer shows us that true faith is not just a private feeling. It is a public stand for justice, even when that stand is dangerous. He is the antidote to the sealed heart. He is the living proof that the spirit can overcome the strength of Pharaoh. He is the guide who refuses to let his people wander into Dalal error without a warning. As we conclude this segment, remember the day of calling. It is the day when the distance between the high ranks, verse 15, and the lowly disputers becomes an unbridgeable chasm. Do not turn your back today so that you do not have to turn your back fleeing tomorrow. The forgiver is still calling you. The Hamim is still open. Let your heart be exalted by the truth, not sealed by the ego. The believing man's message is timeless, because the human heart's tendency toward a transgression is timeless. We must constantly check our hearts for the symptoms of the Murtab, the one who lives in doubt to avoid the responsibility of faith. The day of calling will be a day of absolute transparency. There will be no more concealing of faith or concealing of hatred. Everything will be loud. Everything will be seen by the hearing and the seeing, verse 20. Let our movement in the land be a journey of preparation for that calling. Let us seek the sultan authority of the Quran so that we are not among those who dispute in vain. The companies of old are our lesson. The day of calling is our appointment. Let us arrive at that appointment with an unsealed heart and a tongue that has already learned to call upon the Wahid. Finally, consider the compassion of the believing man. He uses the term, "O my people, Ya, Kami," repeatedly. Despite their arrogance, he still identifies with them and fears for them. This is the mark of a true believer, to want for others the guidance they have found for themselves. He is trying to snatch them from the fire of their own pride. As seekers, we must have this same compassion for our own people, our families, our communities, and our own souls. We must warn each other of the day of calling and the seal of the heart before the specified term expires. The message of the Hamim is a message of urgent, loving correction. Hadith, the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, said, "Arrogance is refusing the truth and despising people." Sahih Muslim. This hadith perfectly defines the Mutakabir and the Jabbar mentioned in verse 35. Pharaoh and his council were not just engaging in a debate. They were systematically refusing the truth brought by Musa alayhi salam and despising the believers as corrupters,
verse 26,
which led to the divine sealing of their hearts. Let us now supplicate, drawing from the profound lessons of these verses, asking Allah to grant us a deeper understanding and to guide our every step. O Allah, the Ghafir forgiver and the owner of the throne, we seek your refuge from the day of calling when there will be no protector from your decree, and every soul will call out in its desperation. O Al-Hadi, the guide, do not leave us astray or make us among those whose hearts are sealed due to arrogance, tyranny, and the refusal to submit to your light. Cleanse our hearts of the shake doubt and Urshiab skepticism that plagued the people of Pharaoh and prevents the soul from seeing your clear proofs. Grant us the certainty of the prophets and the clear authority of Musa alayhi salam in every challenge we face. O Aladil, the just, we testify that you want no injustice for your servants. Let our movement in the land be a testimony to your justice and mercy. Save us from being among those who dispute concerning your signs without authority or evidence, Soften our hearts so they may receive the provision from the sky and be exalted in ranks on the day of meeting. Let our call today be a call of Anaba turning, so that our call on the day of calling may be a call of peace, joy, and entry into your garden. O owner of the highest ranks, keep us guided, keep us humble, and protect us from the fleeing of that day by making us those who ran toward you in this life. May Allah illuminate your heart and mind with the light of this divine ill. May He make your channel a beacon of guidance for all who seek spiritual clarity and truth. May your efforts be a source of immense reward, and may you be granted the highest stations of paradise. May the peace and blessings of Allah always be upon you and your loved ones. May He grant you unwavering steadfastness on the path of truth, and may your work be a testament to His magnificent names, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. Ameen.